Years ago tonight, three young men somewhere around the age of 21, young man not yet 30, seemed to know where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, why it is they wanted to do it. And they asked who will be willing to go with them. And my brothers, through the corridors of 4 full generations, if you here assembled will listen carefully, you can hear the query that comes at us from those who were there in the bleakness, blackness, and darkness of that inaugural night. They're asking you and me just how far we are willing to go, just how much we are willing to do, just how long we'll be willing to work, and just how committed we are willing to be. Many of you will remember the fraternal cohesion felt among those who made their way to our nation's capital this July past. It was a marvelous moment to give witness to a sea of those adorned in passionate purple and glistening gold, and for some the first time seeing all of this from the inside of Omega's bosom. But all came away having a joyous and majestic mountaintop experience. Anytime one gathers with the whole of the fraternal family in conclave assembled, it is indeed a joy to behold. It is an unparalleled experience. It is an unrivaled opportunity for participation among and fraternization with the great and near great. And when one sees it for the first time, its very uniqueness is both momentous and memorable. Oh, some of you, long in tooth and gray in head, are old enough to remember going to the St. Louis Conclave in 1973. It was the first national meeting of its kind for a then nappy-headed 20-year-old boy who 2 years earlier had lifted his right hand and pledged his commitment to our beloved fraternity. I was in awe to see walking around the hotel lobby, Hardy, I don't remember what hotel, but I saw there the Grand Basileus James Avery, who transitioned to Omega chapter just this past spring. He was at the very meeting about to pass the baton of fraternal leadership to his successor, Brother Marion Garnett. My jaw dropped and my tongue cleaved to the roof of my mouth, just to be in the same room with the lights of Ernest Green of Little Rock and Benjamin Hooks of Memphis and Colonel Norman McDaniel, who had just been released months earlier after 6 years in a Vietnamese POW camp. Gathered there was the erudite Benjamin Elijah Mays of Atlanta, participating on a panel sitting between Vernon Jordan of the Urban League and Jesse Jackson of Chicago. My mind was swimming. My head was dazzled. My mental image of who I was in comparison to them weighed me in the balance and found me greatly wanting just to be in the same room with poise and purpose and prestige and power. I had dismissed myself as less than until I was coming down on the elevator by myself, and the then editor of the Oracle, Sam Shepard, got on the 3rd floor. I knew who he was, but I was afraid to speak. But then he said to me, "Hello, young brother." I knew who he was, but I was too intimidated to find words to tell him who I was. Before we reached the lobby, he said to me, "If this is your first conclave, this meeting must be answer, not knowing what the expression heady wine meant. But it was my first conclave, my first time seeing and bearing witness to the best that Omega had to offer, all assembled at the same time in the same place. And then he said, if you've got the time, you ought to go over and say hello to that brother sitting over there in the chair. It was my first conclave at the age of 20. But fate would have it that it would be the last conclave for that brother sitting over in the chair. As a matter of fact, it would be the last conclave attended by a member of the founding four. For sitting over there in the chair was none other than Brother Edgar A. Love himself. The regalness of his stature having been somewhat eroded by the feebleness of his years. But I and other young brothers went over and introduced ourselves, then sat at the feet of one who told us of what it was like to be there in the darkness and in the darkness of that initial November night. He told us so much, but it seemed that more often than not, he prefaced his remarks with two expressions that are indelibly written in my memory and inviolably placed in my breast. When he spoke of how we should be, he would quite often use the expression strive for, as if to say that in our daily living as Omega men, we ought always strive for industry, strive for ingenuity, strive for duty, strive for nobility, strive for truth. But he had as well another expression, and it was one that cautioned our youthful ears to that which he found distasteful, abominable, and unsavory. He would now and again tell us things that Omega cannot use. From there, he would go on to share what 62 years of watching his vision grow told him of how quickly erosion to the pillars can come, and the muscularity of those tasked with holding them up can atrophy. Brother Love spent 40 minutes telling those of us there assembled what Omega cannot use. He affirmed the quintessential value of our fraternity and the responsibility incumbent upon all of us who are charged with guarding it at all costs. Brothers, I can hear that sterling quality of his aged voice speaking to the gathering here tonight in Atlanta and all other gatherings of brothers that sit at his feet around the 7th district, back in my beloved 4th district, around the whole of this nation, around the span of our fraternal footprint, stretching even tonight around the world. Hear him as he says to those who are committed to helping him hold high the pillar post of protection. Hear him say that Omega cannot use lame excuses and weak reasons for being less than manly, deficient in our duty, derelict in our responsibility, and indecent in how we protect ourselves and project ourselves to the world. Lame excuses Omega cannot use for why we do not give our best in the classroom, pick up a book at home, discipline our study of sacred script, and share our truth with the world. Omega cannot use lame excuses and weak reasons for those who are too quick and too eager to wave the white flag, to give up